uh, welcoming Aarti here. Hello, Aarti. Welcome to this Wisdom Talk.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Abhishek, for having me.
Yeah, thanks for accepting this invite. I think I was feeling excited as soon as I guess our conversation happened because I was like, this is going to be, straight from the heart conversation, and we're like, let's really have this conversation about some of these issues that matter to us. So, really looking forward to you and sharing
Likewise,
those
likewise.
perspectives. Yeah. So, Aarti, you had been warned. The first question always in a wisdom talk is. What do you feel is wisdom? And I want to locate this question also at two levels. I think one is that you had an extended bird's eye view of the space, and our sector has people who have certain wisdom perhaps which is not so commonly present, and happy to include you also in that, right? People who see something differently. So one is from there, and the other is from the fact that you enable organizations to get boards, and that also I'm guessing is you're creating a pool of wisdom that organizations can access.
Correct.
So that also I think you may want to build, like, I mean, I'm sure you built an eye for looking at who's the right set of wise people to guide. So I think from those, just curious, what is wisdom according to you? Where have you spotted it? And yeah.
Thank you, Abhishek. When you reached out to me, I was thinking Abhishek is asking the least wise person on the planet to, participate in the wisdom talk. I don't actually think of, myself as a very wise person, to be honest. So let me just sort of put it out there. Um, to me, I think wisdom starts actually even before we get into the sector and the kind of work that one is attempting to do and all that. Is just this acute sense of self-awareness, right? Because I think that if one doesn't have that, if you don't know who you are as an individual, what your uniqueness is, what your strengths are, then your contributions will be hugely compromised, right? And I have learned that over a period of time. So I think just constantly reflecting and being self-aware, looking at how different stimuli around you are influencing you and how you're reacting and responding to those different stimuli around, I think is to me the first step in being wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think from that, what follows therefore is anything that cannot be put into action, right? In my view, is actually useless. I often get a lot of backlash when I say this, but in my head, I think for me, there are two buckets, right? One is all the knowledge and the stuff that I have, or I'm learning, or I'm acquiring that I'm able to use, and one that you just pick up, right? So the second bucket is just entertainment. It really has very little other relevance per se, right? And the third thing is, I think, holding oneself accountable for the choices that we make. And I think this is very important, especially for people like us who are in the social sector, right? Because I think sometimes we, sort of expect other people to react and respond to us in a certain way. And that's a battle that I think very often it will be a long ongoing one, and very often we will lose it because the only thing that you have complete control over is your own actions and reactions and the choices you make. So I think I've tried to use sort of these three definitions, as it were, of wisdom in the work that I do, and especially in the sector, which is what has nurtured me as an individual, and hopefully will continue to do so for the rest of my life.
Lovely. So awareness, action, accountability, right?
Yes.
Self-awareness, translating wisdom to action, and
Yeah.
holding accountability for your own actions, I
Yeah.
think is
Yeah.
broadly
Yeah.
where I'm coming at. That sounds elegant. That sounds reachable, also actionable. That sounds actionable.
Yes.
Uh,
Indeed.
and yeah, just I think going from there, because you said that your contribution gets severely compromised if self-awareness is not present,
Yeah.
right? And I was curious about that because at least the sector, or again, I'm bringing it back to the sector, need not be sector specific, but people claim to contribute to the world. And of course, volunteering or just working in the space is contribution. So I was curious about when you said this self awareness being low actually affects how much you can contribute. Yeah, curious on what made you say
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of what I'm going to say will come from the kind of person that I am, right? And having been around now, I think for about 20 years or more. So my view on this is that we are all a bundle of biases and prejudices and opinions and views, right? And often, the work that we do sometimes requires us to set that aside, uh, because we want to, contribute in the most objective manner that we possibly can. As an individual, I find that very, very hard, right, to do. And I think it's important to be very upfront and honest with the people that you're engaging with, saying that, look, these are my biases, these are my prejudices, and then leave it to the other individual to choose whether they want to engage with you or not, right? And I'm saying this because if otherwise you're constantly putting on an act, it will not be sustainable. You've constantly got to ensure that you don't let your guard down. And it works well for some people who are able to do that and carry on in that manner for the rest of their lives or in all contexts. But I think for me as an individual, it's very hard to do that, right? I do try because I think situations will sometimes require one to do that. But I think for me, being aware that I think about certain things in a certain way, whether it is around governance or boards or volunteering. I have strong views on people who don't volunteer, right? I do judge them. That is the truth. I believe that we should not be entitled as a people, and I'm saying this very honestly. I also believe that a lot of us think it, but we don't say it. Okay?
Yes, so true.
Yeah.
I count myself in that. Sure.
Yeah, a lot of us do. I mean, I do too in some situations, right? But there is an inherent hypocrisy in that. And social culture, social norms and culture dictates that we put on those facades. But from a work perspective, I think it does compromise on the authenticity of what you are able to deliver to a person who's reached out to you, for help. Right. So all I'm saying is be aware that you are reacting, either through a facade you've created or be honest to say to the other person that, look, this is what I personally believe in and I feel strongly about it. And give the other person the agency to determine whether they want to be involved in that engagement or not.
Mm-hmm. True. I think when I look back at myself, I think my need for harmony, my need to be nice and be seen as nice, I think with a lot of people around me, though there is a rift, I mean, I feel like working in this space, there's that rift of saying, why aren't you doing something when you can do so much more, but not
Correct.
seeing that. I think those subtle drifts, and then you send out those vibes, and then so yeah, I can so relate to that. And yeah, and volunteering, I think, was, since this is leading somewhere there. uh, Again, strong feelings. I feel we are sitting on so much privilege as humanity, as human beings. All previous generations have done their work, and strong views on volunteering, which I don't voice. And I'm sure there are many others also. So I was curious because we had spoken about volunteering, and in our organizations, we're always drawing volunteers, mobilizing volunteers, trying to pitch to volunteers, saying, guys, do this. This is like worth it. You will have fun. You will learn. You will do social impact. Like, we're always racking our brains on how do we get more people to volunteer. So curious, because I'm sure you've been thinking of this question even longer.
Yeah. So, I think that I have probably volunteered almost all my life, right? So my very first experience was when the one that I can recall very strongly. I think the schools I went to at least did a great job of integrating some form of service orientation, right? So just like you studied useless things like trigonometry, you also did useful things like volunteering. Okay, and I know if there are any geeks listening to this, they're going to be very scandalized. But I think for me, the awareness in terms of what volunteering has done for me came in much later. And so one did it because, family, we all come from privileged families that encourage, doing good. You pick up things because you role model after your parents or your grandparents, and you see them reaching out and helping and things like that. So you pick that up, right? Schools, I think, at least for me, played a very, very, very critical role in just making me aware of, my own privilege and the fact that others didn't have it. And then, what could you do in response to that, right? But I think, fast forward a few years, when I started seriously volunteering, that was when I began to realize the impact that it was having on me. And I began volunteering honestly at a time when, I had my kids. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't want to take on a full-time job. I wanted to be at home, but I realized that was not who I was. I needed something more. Just changing nappies and responding to gurgling baby was not giving me, the joy that, others might have gotten. So when I started volunteering, to me, saw that as an opportunity. It did immensely well. I mean, I did immensely well as a human being, I think, after that. I just grew in self-confidence. To me, I realized the potential that I had. And I think I'm very thankful for that specific opportunity, Abhishek, because I got taken extremely seriously, and I think that is a huge factor in determining how successful we will be in building volunteering in the country. We have to take our volunteers very, very seriously, right? And that will only if we take them seriously will they take themselves seriously, right? And to me, I think that will emerge from drawing attention to what it is doing for the individual in that particular situation. Why is somebody volunteering? I mean, conversations are usually about the impact that they've created, and that's good. And we must continue to sort of nurture and celebrate that, of course, right? But I think equally, especially, given my own journey and in the past few years, I feel that we have to have more conversations about, what is it doing to you? Why did you do this? Why did you start giving time? Right? Having given time, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about, your relationship with the cause, right? All of those things, right? Because we want to create a society where this is sustained and is self-perpetuating in many ways, right?
Yes.
I mean, the day that you and I don't need to do this and we don't need to exist as organizations is the day that we've been truly successful.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Because people are just doing it on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So sorry, long answer, but that is it. I think just self-awareness around what it's doing to you as an individual and constantly course correcting, right? If it's not giving you what you want, you won't do
Moving
it.
to
You won't do it.
yeah. I think for us also the inception of Blue Ribbon. I mean, it's had different waves, but the primary experience of volunteering was so satisfying that we're like, how do we make it available to more people? And that's kind of one of the key inceptions when Akshat and I kind of said, let's do this. So yeah, so I think definitely relate to that. I was curious when you said taking volunteers seriously, because volunteering, I'll do what I can and it's a volunteer. So how much can you push? So I was curious, like as organizations or generally even as a volunteer themselves, so how do you take it seriously? And I want to share like, or maybe I'll share after you shared, because we've also had some reflection on the approach that we should have vis-a-vis volunteering. And maybe if you can begin and then I'll probably chime in on what our thinking has been, like taking volunteering seriously.
Yeah, so I think Abhishek, in my head, there are two ways of doing this, right? One is which is very cultural to us, which is that it doesn't matter who you are, what you can do, what you can't do. The need around, requires you to give, right? And you do it, irrespective of whether you want to or you don't want to, or you like it or you don't, right? So a lot of, for example, like the langar, it's a great example. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a company or whoever you are, if you're part of that sort of system, then on one day you will serve food, the other day you will clean plates, on the third you will whatever, right? You will arrange the chappals, right? So there, I think so that is one approach, looking at building humility through shramdhan and service, and you really forget about the individual, right? The other, which I think intuitively, I feel will help us sustain volunteering, is to really to start with the volunteer and not start with the problem that needs to be solved alone, right? To say, okay, what will enable you or excite you or inspire you to give time, give 3 hours a week and not necessarily switch on Netflix, at that time? Because the one currency that we all have equal of is time. 24 hours,
Right.
not a minute more or less, right? It's only how we're choosing to spend it that varies and differs,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so I think for a lot of volunteers, if we are able to show them that the work that they are doing is critical, not just in terms of the impact that it's going to have in in society, but equally for them, right? Then the act of volunteering, I feel, will get taken far more seriously, right?
Hmm, hmm.
So I remember in various contexts where I have volunteered, if I didn't deliver, so what would a typical response be? Arey, ye to volunteer hai, yaar. I mean,
Right.
you don't expect anything more, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
invariably, all the non-critical tasks get given to the volunteer, right? Meaning, if they're nice to have tasks, they're not critical tasks, right? Kiya to kiya, nahi to chalega. It's all right.
Hmm,
We'll
hmm.
figure out a way. But imagine if you gave the volunteer a critical task to do in the organization, right? What are you saying, in other words, to her or him, right? You're saying, boss, I mean, I'm taking you so seriously that if you don't do this, we'll be screwed,
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
right? And your contribution is invaluable to
Yeah,
us, right?
yeah.
So if you don't help us handle our accounts or manage our finances, then we are in deep trouble. Okay? So from the volunteer's point of view, that is very fulfilling, right? To be taken seriously.
Hmm, 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 hmm.
Now, of course, it will depend on the volunteer herself. Now, a volunteer may want to just do, just want to explore and do the non-critical stuff and have fun and so on, and that's fine. So I think just understanding, what the volunteer wants to get out of it will also enable us to think about how seriously we want to invest time in that volunteer, right? I think as a sector where we may be going wrong is we're starting by saying that, volunteers, nice to have, not must have, right?
Hmm,
And so
hmm.
then that, so subconsciously, उतना ही seriously लेंगे ना हम.
True, true. I think for us also, we moved from volunteering as like a favor or as like big thing to saying that you're doing it for yourself and you're also doing it
Correct.
as a gift to the divine, to the world. It's a gift you're making. Like it's
It's
your sacred
payback.
offering.
It's
Yeah,
payback.
yeah, yeah. It's that sacred offering.
Yeah.
And yet, I'm saying if I tally the number of Netflix hours watched in India and the number of volunteering hours done in India, it is likely that Netflix is currently being able to pull more. Or maybe there are hundreds of acts of volunteering that are not recorded, right? There are also a lot of small, small acts that happen all around. I'm curious, what can we do to make volunteering like a serious competitor to Netflix and even a winner? Because it should be a winner. It's visceral, it's fun, it's purpose driven, it's engaging. So curious, what more to make every Indian volunteer?
I wish I had an easy answer to that, Abhishek. The truth is, I think we're still trying to figure it out. Uh, and there are multiple, thoughts around it, right? Different people have different points of view around it. So Shalab from I Volunteer, I work with them, came back in yesterday and said that often you'll find in countries like the US and, where he was in Russia or for an event, that the president was there at the volunteering event, right? So you'll find that Points of Light, for example, has had the president address the volunteers. So I think culturally, in terms of formal volunteering, right? Of course, we know that people do stuff, and culturally we don't like. There is this whole thing of why should the right hand know what the left hand has done or whatever the other thing, right? Maybe there are, like you're saying, unaccounted for hours. I don't know that. But formal volunteering, we have a very, very, very long way to go. I think we need to build this awareness of privilege that we all enjoy and share. We need to show people that they do have dispensable time. And clearly, I think my view is we need to show people that it will be good for them, right? Netflix is
Hmm.
fun. It makes me feel good at the end of 2 hours or whatever. Like I don't want to advertise
Yes.
Netflix, okay? But you can please beep it out. Buy free advertising for them. But
Hmm, hmm.
but but I think if you're able to constantly show people what it's doing, for them, and that could even be just taking away from the impact that they've been able to create, right? I mean, how powerful that is, right? I spend 2 hours and I'm able to change the life of another human being.
True, true.
I think that is really important, and we need to build the hunger and the appetite and the desire, right? And I think we will have to keep discovering what will work for us as a country and for us as a people. So my view is everything should be tried. Okay, there is no, just try
So there's a long
everything.
way to go.
Yeah, there is a very long way to go. I mean, there is. I mean, I was thinking, before we were going to, before I logged on, I was looking at my phone and so I had like 4,000 contacts or whatever, right? And I was just randomly checking to see how many of these people who I know volunteer. It was, every 15, 20, 30 names that came up as a maybe. And I would love for you to do this exercise sometime, right? Just check and see how many of the people that you know and who know you in your own circle actually give time consciously. Very, very, very few. We
Yeah.
aren't able to create those role models, and we need to do that much more visibly, far more consciously.
Right. Yes. Yes. I agree. I think, yeah, there is a long way to, there's, like you said, there is such a long way to go to make people volunteer and to let them know that the benefit is really theirs. I'm curious though, Aarti. So one thing I think similar between us, if I'm correct, is that we do some gigs for our bread and butter, and then we volunteer a huge percentage of our time. I think that, and that's how I've also chosen to do it. In the sense, not make Blue Ribbon my primary source of income, but really do gigs with leadership consulting, and then volunteer as much time as I can. Question I have is then, what's the role of the full-time social worker or the professional social worker? Like, so which tasks then? And I'm just picking your brains on saying, what is the right, like, which tasks then would you allocate for volunteering? Which tasks would you do to the full-time social workers? What, like, is there something, some thinking on that? Like, सब volunteer करेंगे तो वो लोग को क्या करना है? Which, yeah, like some.
Yeah, so I think that the professional social worker is only now, and I did my master's donkeys years ago, right? I think professional social work is only now getting the reckoning that it deserves, right? Maybe in the past 5, 10 years, okay. Otherwise, who cared about a professional social worker? We still don't. I mean, I don't think, for instance, every police station or every hospital in the country has a professional social worker, right? So I think that professional social work means you need to have professional skills, right? Which you should have acquired, learned, studied for, right? And that's it's like not everybody can be a health worker, right? Not everybody can be a physiotherapist. Not everybody can be a counselor, you know. Everybody can be a listener, maybe. Right? But I think some of these require skills, and we should be very careful in distinguishing what those skills are and what volunteering is, right? And I think, while I think that some of this is not rocket science and one can learn as you go along, it's important to be very clear that, as a volunteer, what are my limitations? Like, what is the framework within which I can actually work or not work, right? And recognizing that, right? And therefore designing tasks. So one is designing tasks on the basis of the skills that I already have. So can everybody who has a skill volunteer? The easy answer is, of course, yes. Right? Can a physiotherapist volunteer and I don't know, monkey trainer volunteer? Of course, yes. Right? But can every volunteer do everything that a social worker does? The obvious answer is no. So I think if we look at skills-based volunteering, we will be able to identify enough and more opportunities, right, for them to give those skills. The other is, what are the skills I want to acquire through volunteering? Right? I'll give you an example. So, a few years ago, I was talking to somebody who's a finance person, right? And the obvious, so, she came to me and said, hey, I want to volunteer time. I work only 5 days a week. Maybe Saturday, Sunday here. So what can I do? And for me, I'm sure most of us, you included, might have said, okay, finance, has been in the finance space for donkey's years. Chalo, let's find an organization that needs help with looking at their finances, and let's see if she's able to do that on the weekend for them. So, yes, of course, we found 2-3 organizations who said, yeah, we'd love it. It's so expensive to get this kind of help. Can she work with our accounts people and help and so on? And she did that for a bit. And then, within 2 or 3 interactions, she sort of, fell off the radar. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, what happened, Sumitra? Why? And she said, look, I do this 5 days a week. Okay.
Ah, hmm,
Okay. I actually wanted to, wanted to practice my piano, and I wanted to do that by teaching kids,
hmm.
right? And that to me was a revelation in many ways, right? So I think that again, I'm coming back and as a cost to being repetitive, let's check with people what they would like to do and
Hmm,
what they
hmm.
want to do.
Starting where they are. Yeah.
Starting where they are, right? And we're now talking about this whole approach. It's a journey approach, right? To say that not everybody is at the same starting point. And when we look at volunteering and we take volunteering opportunities, we're basically giving the same set of things. So whether you like Thai food or not, here is Thai food. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm hungry, but I don't want to eat Thai food.
Give me a choice. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, give me a choice, right? B, am I hungry at all? Right? So how do we create that, hunger in people? Equally, I have, and I'm going to say this very openly, right? I'm sort of disappointed with the sector in some ways because I feel that this desire to engage volunteers is not there in a big way. I mean, there are a handful of organizations that do it, maybe they're trying it, I don't know. But, this deep angst that, we need to get more volunteers into the work that we are doing, I find that wanting in all my interactions, right? And I know it's not like a politically correct thing to say and all that, but Abhishek, but I think we need to recognize that, right? And we need to figure. I've often wondered about creating opportunities that don't require NGOs at all. Can people still volunteer? And of course, yes, they can, but that's a whole different, topic.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. So there is definitely some soul searching required. I think 5 years ago in BRM also we reached a place where we said that we will be a volunteering led, alumni led organization with just 1 or 2 employees and everybody else volunteering rather than kind of grow that organizational model. So that came from some of this churning amongst ourselves saying, what do we want to be? And but I hear you that we can always like push ourselves to get it done from the volunteer. Just to me, sometimes it's just easier to fundraise and pay an employee to do it, while a volunteer is slightly more complex, but more sustainable perhaps in the long run because it builds a culture, it builds a fabric of relationships
And it
and
just creates a
contribution.
better society. You
Hmm.
know, if you have a whole bunch of people trying to do what they can to make the world a better place, it's as simple as that, right? And I'm not saying that everything can be done by a volunteer, right? Of course, we will need to fundraise because some things need to be done in a certain way within, defined structures and so on, right? But
Yeah.
I'm saying, the point, I mean, I would love for organizations to show hunger, show more hunger, chase, and reprimand volunteers who don't show up and not just
Mhm.
sort of say, "Arey nahi hone wala," you know?
Hmm, hmm, hmm. I think for
Country of
us,
1.2 billion people, Abhishek, come on. I mean, there's no dearth of warm bodies.
yes, there is a lot of surplus for sure. And I
Yeah.
think it's all ours to channelize it for purposes. And I think the imagination, the creativity, I think those things come up. Um, I'm curious about a few myths that or popular inaccurate beliefs that you think as a culture we hold that if you had to bust you would. I know that's the question that came to me, like are there certain ways of seeing, because when we were speaking we spoke a little bit about scale, we spoke about founders and succession and some very prevalent worldviews, and then you were like, no, but that's not how I see it. So I was curious about, so if you would like to bust some of these myths from your experiences.
Yeah, so the one that I'm constantly grappling with is this, so this is very focused on governance and the work that I do, right? In trying to um, enable organizations to think a little bit about the kind of boards that they would like to have. Now the truth is that if you're set up as a non-profit entity in India, you have to have a board, right? The day that that doesn't become a requirement, I think 90% of organizations will do away with it. Okay. But the whole song and dance around founder syndrome and succession planning and stuff like that, I keep hearing it a lot of the time. And theoretically, of course, I agree. I mean, it would be nice to sort of hand the baton off to somebody else who can run the organization and so on. In reality, I don't think there are more than 50, maybe even it's a big number, right? 50 organizations that have successfully transitioned the founder, or the founder has transitioned out, right? And that organization has remained true to purpose, right, for which it was set up. I'm not judging it, by the way. So I'm not saying that if the purpose is changed, that's it, that's not all right. I mean, who am I to say that anyway? But I'm saying that, the truth is, I think founders like, through the actions that they are taking, and not through what they are saying or what they might be otherwise sharing, that they want to run the organization for as long as they possibly can in the way that they want to. Right? We've got to stop judging that. Right? We've got to say, I think, as as a sector, that's all right. Right? Because the truth is, Abhishek, I mean, God forbid, tomorrow you decided to walk away from the RM, or whoever, somebody walked away from the non-profit. What will happen? Nothing is going to happen. And the beneficiaries or the clients who work with aren't going to go and jump in the sea.
Sure.
They're not. I mean, they will.
Life goes on, right?
Life will go on. I mean, there will be a blip maybe, but itna bhi nahi, no? It's not. Things are going to come to a standstill, right? And I think if we allow, founders the space without judgment to say, look, I want to do this till I possibly can or till I possibly want to, and create a board that will support the founder in a way that she or he is able to do that, then I think we will, have successful organizations.
Do that, meaning do what?
Help the founder in the way that she or he needs at different points in time.
Right. Where the founder is, like a
where
board.
The founder is. Yeah. And I'm not saying therefore that there shouldn't be accountability and there shouldn't be compliance, and those are given truisms. You've got to be accountable for the support that you're seeking or getting, and all of that is a given, right? But I think to sort of artificially create this situation where founders are forced to say, oh, I need to build a second line. My question is why? Why do you want to build a second line? Run it, no, till you want to. I mean, if you look at the corporate sector also, right, and I don't know much about, like I said, I have no knowledge or views on anything that I'm not using in work, but I'm just saying that I don't know of very many founders of companies who have moved on, exited completely, right? I mean, you have the biggest guys around you and they've continued to be part of those organizations, right?
Right.
I think the eye on the ball should be, are we able to achieve what we set out to achieve? Right? And the second thing is, if a founder decides to, continue running the organization for as long as she or he does, the others have a choice to engage or not engage, no? That you always have a choice to do, right? You can say that, I won't fund you till you find a second line. That's a choice you can exercise. Right? So that's my view. And I think that the sooner we acknowledge that, the better we will be able to help each other in the same way.
True. Yeah. I think that would be very sensitive to the founders' place.
And their own purpose in life, right?
Yeah. Curious, Aarti, if you have a view about philanthropy in the sense from the range of Janadharit fundraising to philanthropists, to foundations, to the government itself actually funding some work. Do you think all needed, or do you think in the long run sustainable work should be funded by XYZ? What about the influences and tugs and pulls of funders? Just anything?
No, Abhishek. So, it would be very unfair for me to comment on that because A, I'm not a philanthropist. B, I don't run an organization, so I don't need to raise money myself. And I honestly have ceased having a view on the whole giving money bit, right? My own view, and I'll be very honest, do I myself give enough? I don't, right? I don't. I give what I can, I think at best to assuage some guilt. But I think I lead a far more comfortable life than I need to. Okay. And for me, I think it's a personal journey, it's a personal milestone that I need to achieve, right? In bringing more simplicity to the way that I'm leading my life. before I can go and expound, views on, philanthropy and how much somebody should give or not give, right? Because I don't do enough of it, and I'm not yet there. I would like to get there sooner. It is a struggle, but I'm also realizing that, every time I make money, I want to hold on to it longer. You know, so I mean, for me, that's the battle that I need to really face, and I'm acknowledging it, and in a public forum. But I think till I do that myself, I don't think I have any right to even comment.
Comment on
Yeah,
anything. Sure, sure.
no.
I hear you. I also hear the congruence that you're bringing into what you're sharing. I was also curious, again, more sector level kind of reflection, and in terms of if there would be a few truths that we need to see or a few things we need to acknowledge that would make life easier or better collectively. What are a few things that we're not seeing enough of or clearly? Like, ये बात समझ जाओ तो helpful. It'll be helpful to acknowledge or understand or accept. Is there anything coming for you on that front? Like you said, accepting the founders, that not all founders may want to build a second line, right? And it would be much better if so. Any other such truths that come to you?
Yeah, Abhishek. So I think again, I think we don't collaborate with each other enough, right? Amongst ourselves, we don't work together enough. A lot more can be done. If we just sort of leveraged our strengths and help each other, offset the challenges that, each of us as organizations and individuals might have. Right. So that is a big challenge. I think that, if we, and I know there are, so Sahyog Foundation, which is a new organization, relatively new organization, I'm sort of associated with them. I think that's what they're trying to do. So they're trying to say, can we bring organizations to work together, right? And achieve, larger good for the communities that they are in. If we did that, I think from many perspectives, just from human resource and cost perspective itself, it would be invaluable. We do not have the talent that we need in the sector, right? Or that we can afford in the sector, right? That's a critical thing. So that is one. I mean, that's the truth, that we don't want to work enough with each other, right? I also find at some level that the survival of the organization sometimes becomes more important than the survival of the mission, right? And maybe that's the natural order of things. I don't know. Like I said, some of these are just observations. It's not from lived experience. I don't run an organization myself, but so that's the second thing, right? I mean, are we as a sector or as individual organizations, are we able to say that, these people can do it better than I can, right? So why don't I actually empower or enable, right? But it comes back to, no, I have to do it my way,
Yes.
Yeah, no, and my way is better than every other way, and I'm guilty of it myself, honestly, right? I mean, I think there are certain ways in which I will do things, and yeah, that's the way to do it. And I think I'm learning a little bit more about that not being probably the best thing for the sector. But we all are hung up about who we are and what we do, what we know, and the way that we do things, right? But I think from a sector perspective, it would be very useful to say, is there somebody who's doing this better than I mean, in the volunteering space, right? So I run some random initiatives. And I'm very hung up about the way that those get done, right? So it's a lot of effort, and I think consciously I've tried to do that. So with the Let's Teach English program that some of us kicked off last, it's a completely volunteer-driven thing. It's a very simple idea. If you know English, you have a phone, pick up the phone and talk to somebody. At its peak, we had 3,000 volunteers. We have 400 volunteers now, and I think the good thing, and some of this is just, I don't know, it's just blessing. I think, Abhishek. I think the group of us that came together to do it were very clear that, whoever wants to take it and run with it should, and let's help them do that, right? For me, it was a huge learning experience, right? Because I think what we want to also do in that process is we want to share of the success, but we don't want to take responsibility for the failure. You know, but that's a small example, and it's a small effort in that direction, saying that idea is powerful, whoever can do it in whatever way they can do it, take it and run with it, and let's see if we can help you. So that's the that's the second thing. I think the third thing for me would really be about being true to oneself, right? In terms of saying that I am not good at this, okay, or I'm not as good as I need to. When I say I don't mean the individual, but at the organization, right? And to really acknowledging that and saying that, look, maybe this is something that we don't know how to do and we can't do it. Right? It comes from, again, like I said, my first point about being self-aware. I will suck personally at doing any kind of data or analysis. Okay, I would thrive talking to people. I know that is my strength. So I should not even take on, and at the individual level, we do that, right? We don't take on stuff, hopefully, that we are really bad at and we suck at. But at organizations, I feel we don't exercise enough discretion in that. And so you end up having a lot of, struggling, mediocre efforts.
True. I'm almost hearing like self-awareness at the organizational level, also to know one's limitations, to know when to collaborate, who to collaborate with, and really building that reflective lens at an org level also, not just at a self level, right? That's
correct.
That's what. Yeah. I'm also mindful about how, at least I know in my own experience, like we end up becoming in small cliques and gangs of certain types who we associate with, shared beliefs, judgments on other groups within the sector also, and then to remind ourselves that we are all on the same team. Ultimately we're all a part of like one big family that is trying and doing good. I think for us that's also been something we time to time keep coming back at, thing, what's going on there. So curious about leadership, and if you have any views on leadership at the level of the sector. There are always role models and there are people we look up to and people we follow. And I still wonder at times, saying that, say, a corporate sector might have a CII or a FICCI or would have leading lights. How do you look at that level, like sectoral level leadership in the development sector? Do you see any, and what do you recognize as sectoral level leaders? Or just curious if there's anything there that comes to you, especially because you work with so many board members who are also like leaders in their own right, each of one. So just curious about that.
Yeah, so I think it's a great point, Abhishek. I don't think that so you're right, there are cliques and there are people that and that's natural. You can't expect to relate to everybody. The chemistry will not work with everybody. You will find the people that you can relate to at some level, and you will engage with them a lot more than you might with others. But as a sector, I think we're woefully inadequate in coming together as an influencing element in society, right? And I don't want to make this sound like an excuse, but the truth is that we are extremely diverse, right? The sector is very diverse. I do see a lot of, or at least in the past few years, some attempts at subsectoral coming together, right? So you have the disability network, you'll have gender networks, you'll have all of that, right? But at the leadership level, I don't think we're doing enough formally, right? I'm sure you're picking up the phone and talking to, I don't know, somebody and saying, hey, I have this problem, I have this challenge,
yes.
How would you do it, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is some challenges can be common, right? And I think, we're not coming together as a single voice. And we need to do that a lot more consciously, a lot more selflessly, more than anything else, right? And to say that, hey, whether it is subsectorally or whether it is as a sector, right? That's a huge gap. I don't think that there is enough work being done, enough effort being invested. And that will only come with a certain degree of moving out of the framework that we all operate in. There is a question on the chat box.
Yes, maybe we can go into the question only, since already question answers have started. But just want to acknowledge that, Aarti, and just with the hope that this starts shifting as we speak also, and the formally leadership also starts emerging. So yeah, Suresh is asking, how do you strike a balance between family needs and volunteering? And I remember another presentation where Jitin from Make a Difference was saying that as soon as people get married, they're not able to retain. The college volunteer is easy to retain post-marriage. So yeah, how would you, yeah, I'm passing that question on to you. How do you strike the balance between family?
I have often been accused of not having a balance between work and work and home, and I think that is true. I think it's hard to generalize, to be honest, because for me, and I think for a lot of us in the sector, Abhishek, work is life and life is work.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
often, struggle with this. So everything else that one does is like a distraction,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
totally.
and good distractions, by the way. I'm not at all complaining, and they're important. Important to have. But honestly, the wrong person to answer that, because I think that um, you have to come at it with what is your life's purpose, right? And and everybody needs a different ways to balance things out. But I personally haven't, honestly, and it's just me maybe, I haven't seen high achieving individuals who are who balance out stuff, right? I mean, I often wonder if Albert Einstein and Mahatma Gandhi had work life balance. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think they did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They went
Right?
all out for that one.
They
That's
went, yeah, and I think each to their own. I don't want to have make a generalized statement over there.
true.
But yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, when I look at the question, I kind of also managed to pull my family a bit into.
yeah, but that's not acceptable. I mean, that's not the answer to this question.
But for me, like the need for all of us to spend time together, I'm like, can we overlap a little bit of our need to spend time together while doing good? So I cheat the system if
Yeah,
you want to
yeah, you
put it that
do.
way.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, that's not
That doesn't
work-life
count
balance.
as a,
Yeah, that
that's
doesn't count.
rejected as a valid.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm also going to invite the audience. If there are any other questions, please type them out into the chat box or just feel free to unmute and ask. And meanwhile, yeah, any other wish list, Aarti, for the sector? We've covered a few wishes. I think you mentioned more collaboration, you mentioned leadership, you mentioned lots of volunteering. May a lot of volunteering happen. Curious if you have any other more wishes to add to the list.
I think we need a lot more optimism and belief in people. I think given the problems that we often, are trying to solve, that might be difficult to come by, right? But I think the starting point or the propeller really is to believe that the person sitting across you wants to do good, right? Or is capable of doing good. Let me put it that way. Not may not want it yet, but is capable of doing good. Is capable of being generous. Is capable of giving time, right? It is not an easy thing to accomplish, but we need to build resilience and patience and really be at it. And I can say that maybe we will not see the fruits of it in our generation. I don't know, but it's an investment that's worthwhile to make, right? And I think as a sector, that would be my wish list. That because at the end of the day, Abhishek, while one can talk about organizational less volunteering or sans organizational volunteering, the truth is that most or many people would like to sort of start within an organization, right? Within a structure.
Yeah.
And for that, we need to build belief in volunteering, belief in the fact that people are seeking and people want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So trusting people with their motives and with
And starting with an assumption, right? Because then you're already putting pressure on the person. You're saying, hey, I know you want to do good. So if the person even doesn't want to do good, can't say, no, but I don't want to do good, right? So we're forced to respond in the way that we want. Yeah.
True.
Okay. There
So
was some other comment.
Rashmi is here. Hi, Rashmi. And she's saying volunteer dies after some time as the work one was volunteering doesn't upgrade, which I'm guessing she's saying you're still doing the same thing. So maybe there's a ladder, a journey of volunteering.
Yes.
Curious how you think about that.
Yeah. So, Rashmi, I think that, opportunities around are innumerable. I mean, you just have to go out there and seek it and you'll find it, right? I do believe there's a journey, so you don't want to be that, although some people want to be at a certain phase, right? And we've tried to do some thinking around this journey where I volunteer. We haven't successfully executed on it anywhere, to be honest, in the truest sense. But I think there is a thought process around it, certainly. And I think that if you feel stuck in a particular place in your volunteering, it is time to move on. And there will be opportunities around that you can seek out and find and try and test and pick up. So Rashmi, if there is specifically anything you're looking to do, please ping me separately, and I will give you a list of things that you can.
Yeah. So I want to share a bit. We wisdom tree wise, we've been thinking, and what we've broadly figured is to create like levels on this ladder of volunteering based on our own experiences itself. So L0 is somebody doing nothing. As soon as you do one random act of kindness, you're now at L1, and there's lots of volunteering there. When you make a slightly longer term commitment, like a fellowship or become a more steady volunteer, that's kind of the L2 zone. L3 zone is like either a founder or a senior member or a strategic member or a long-term reliable volunteer of the organization. L4 is an ecosystem player where you're now not org, you're weaving around.
Multiple.
Yeah. So, and then L5 is like you're kind of iconic, or you become like the known person.
Like the star, yeah.
Star.
Like Abhishek Thakure, like that.
No, I place myself I think people, I feel myself more in L3, L4 doing BRM and trying to connect two networks all around. I would see you also a lot of L4 network energy across, and each of us kind of playing our own field. And I think India Welfare Trust, I think Dharmraj and all had done a detailed kind of, they'd opened up the L1 phase itself to see how the volunteering moves up the ladder. So they zoomed into that. So I think there are models there, and I think it's for us, like you said, to keep upgrading and keep
keep learning and discovering and trying different approaches and not sort of force fitting ourselves into any one way of doing things, right?
Yeah, definitely that. And I think as people also in BRM, we are seeing people learn to kind of manage their life and increase the surplus of their time they give to volunteering. And we're seeing people volunteer up to 15 hours a week of good quality, like managerial level stuff. We call it deep volunteering. If you'd pay them, you'd never be able to afford it. But here are people like doing it. So I think one can keep doing, keep upping that. I hope that.
And they are your evangelists, right, Abhishek? I mean, that's the point I'm making. Do we have enough of those people talking about what they're doing? We don't actually. Why don't I know these people from BRM? I don't know them. I know you, right? And I'm saying that we need to sort of celebrate them more visibly, push them out there, far more, right? Because they are the best marketers.
Role models. Yes.
They are.
And they prove that it is possible to do.
Exactly. And derive joy out of it. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it.
Absolutely. They are definitely for us people. We should push more and have them.
Yeah, and many organizations will have these kinds of people, right? I mean, like at the board level, there are board members who will do nothing, and maybe a large majority is that. I don't know, but there are equally a large number of board members and advisors who do stuff, right? I mean, and why aren't they talking enough about it?
That they are also doing this, right? Doing good.
Yeah, and doing good and, getting joy out of it. And that's easy to do, and getting more people to sort of follow them and so on, right?
Yeah. I think the word I'm latching onto is evangelizing, right? Like, I think evangelizing some of these things is required, and the right role models for talking about it is something that'll be healthy, and maybe create a new set of role models that I think
absolutely.
And all people actually really need. So I think that's lovely. I'm not seeing too many other questions from the audience. So I'm going to ask you, Aarti, any final thoughts, anything that I may not have asked as a question, something you'd like to share? Particularly, I think we've had 16 steady participants who sat through this. So talking about Zoom fatigue, I think at least 14 people here have overcome the Zoom fatigue. So thank you, the audience also.
Thank you.
And the viewers are also pretty much from the social space. So just any other final closing thoughts, any closing remarks, anything that comes to you for us as an audience?
Well, I think I pretty much covered almost everything that I wanted to say, Abhishek, but I just think that lage raho, that would be my two simple sort of words. But seriously, I think just, believing, investing time, and, not necessarily hoping to see the results of that investment even in your lifetime, right? I think it's a good way to at least encourage people to take on this journey with you in the sector, right?
Hmm.
And I think, overcoming the disappointments, and I have faced, and all of us have, right? We all, you talk to 100 people, and maybe two people will, three people might then turn around and sort of be interested and really show the commitment to wanting to stay involved, right? But hey, 3 is more than zero. So, so I just think celebrating the small wins and
Yes, yes.
staying hopeful and optimistic. And welcome to Chennai. I have to talk about the bright sunshine and blue sky. So if
Yes.
anybody is feeling low, just come and you can get your spirits lifted up instantly. So,
Yes, and people can connect to your work, I'm guessing, both on LinkedIn and Facebook. I think both
yes,
places.
I am Aarti Mahadevan on LinkedIn. And of course Facebook, I'm Aarti
Yeah, I've been
Madhusudan.
tagged on that LinkedIn post also, so people can also feel free to ping Aarti with any other thoughts. And taking back so many things, Aarti, from this. I'm taking back awareness both at the self and the org level. I'm taking back inspiration for action and evangelizing. I'm taking back willingness and almost maturity at an org level to collaborate and to know its limits. I'm taking back acceptance of meeting people where they are, meeting founders where they are. So there's lots for us to chew on that one, Aarti. So that was a nice power packed kind of conversation with you. Lots for us to chew in as well. So thank you so much
And
for
thank you, Abhishek.
yeah,
As you know, I love talking, and this was a great opportunity.
yeah, and this was fun. There's lots
Yeah,
of
it was fun. Yeah.
yeah, and
Thank you,
lots of
and thanks to everybody who's here. So yeah.
thanks a lot. We
All right.
are going to pause the recording.